Hey guys, welcome again to another Bitcoin news show. We're doing these shows every other week now, so we're slowing pace down a little bit. You know, the complete opposite of what Bitcoin is doing. Still moving at lightning speed. So we're just here trying to catch up. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific. We're trying to get as many people in here as we can to talk about Bitcoin and to help people understand it, what it is, and what it means, and what the implications are. Joined here with Darren. Looks like a fellow enthusiast here. Started speaking to him on Blab here, and we hit it off. So I asked him to be in the show. And of course, anybody. That's the beautiful thing about Blab. Anybody can join. We welcome anybody to join into the chat and to join in as a guest, as a host, and answer any questions that they may have and have some fun. So if you guys like what you see, go ahead and tweet out and Facebook the show. We're here again every other Monday night on 8 p.m. Pacific on Blab. That's blab.im. But then also we upload our show every time to the World Crypto Network's YouTube channel. So we get a few views from that as well. So if you guys don't find us on here, you can always watch it on the World Crypto Network. And then, of course, replay it here. So let's get into it, I guess, Darren. So let's see here. Let's go. Let's go to the first article, which is the James D'Angelo interview. So it seems that James D'Angelo, I love this guy. I've been following him for a while, and it's actually he just recently started following me on Twitter. So I feel a little. Good. I don't know how I feel about that. But I don't think I'm qualified for that. But he's a good guy. He's been in Bitcoin for years now, and he's really one of the earlier people I think in Bitcoin. And he was out there a couple years back talking about Bitcoin and stuff. And he's a very interesting fellow. He's been all around the world, and he's lived in other countries, and so he's a pretty fascinating guy. And so he basically kind of went. And kind of told the world a few things here, a few controversial things. So if you look at the, if you guys get a chance to check out the podcast, basically what he's kind of postulating and putting forth here is that Bitcoin is pretty much kind of screwed at this point right now for mining centralization. He basically thinks that there is now a very large possibility that mining can be taken over in China with relatively simple ease, in a relatively short time. And he's basically saying that the China right now is stepping on the gas on purpose, basically ramping up all of their miners to get everybody else out of the market, so to leave them solely in the market mining, basically leaving them the only miners left. So I'd like to discuss this a little bit and see what the audience thinks and things like that. And you're definitely welcome to put what you guys think in the comments below as well. But so Darren, let me think. What do you think about what James is saying here? Do you think it has merit?
I mean, from the very first time I walked into Bitcoin and peruse, say, Bitcoin Talk, and especially in particular the mining section within Bitcoin Talk, because a little bit of history. I've tried to build miners before. I've purchased chips. I've been in the situation of talking with Guy at Spondoolies and being in the same room with Antminer and people like that, in Hong Kong a couple of years ago. And when you take a look at when you first come into Bitcoin, the idea was supposed to be, the pie in the sky notion that it's decentralized, to me, never really was true, because the people who were mining, even say, 5-6 years, or at the beginning, let's say, were people who were geeks, who were interested in the coin, who were a special group of people. And as that grew, it was still a specialized group of people. It was never really out to the public, in any great sense, because you had to have a special knowledge to do it. It wasn't like, okay, I just turn on my computer and download something and there you go. It's a lot harder than that, even 2 or 3 years on after the initial blockchain was released, sort of thing. So this idea that he's coming at it from, the sky's falling now seems to be a little disingenuous to me in a way, because he was okay with it how it started, but now it's even worse now than it ever has been before. I get the idea that some people say, there's a lot of built-in sort of movement for mining. Okay, if Japan, or sorry, if China is sort of squashed, then it should move or go elsewhere. But the thing is he's right about the economies of scale. Most miners are built in China, and they're the chips are made in Taiwan or they're made in mainland China. And the designs, I mean, there are three basic people still doing designs, right? It's KNC. You have let me see, who is it? KNC, Spondoolies, Antminer, and what's the other one? One other one, right?
Bitfury, or is that
Bitfury? Yeah, Bitfury out of Russia. But most of the chips are either fabricated in Taiwan or they're fabricated in in China, mainland China. So in terms of where things are made and where they're mined, it's typically sourced around China. A lot of it, central, at least up to about 2 years ago, as far as I was concerned. There are people moving up to outer Mongolia, finding disused coal mining plants, basically, that are powering a lot of these massive farms, sort of based in China. So the ability to move that production elsewhere, say to Iceland or the United States or somewhere in Eastern Europe, where a lot of it's also done, right? With Bitfury has a number of places, somewhere in Eastern Europe as well. It takes a lot of effort to get the miners, something that's efficient, and also get them set up in a factory, and also get the cooling and do all these things. So as you centralize mining, right, it does become dangerous because, a government can just walk in and say, guess what, we own this now, especially in China. It's, it happens. It's not like it's unheard of. So would that kill the network? What would ramifications be? Well, there'd be a significant impact on the market, I would think, if that happens. Yes, eventually it would disperse, it would be smashed, and then it would be dispersed out. But that doesn't mean that the Chinese government couldn't control it and, again, ramp up production like James is talking about. Just go back to what, go back to the early days. Is, one person's holding a miner that if you built 100 of them, you had, 80% of the network. Well, if you have enough funds, if you have enough money, you can still do that. It's still within reach, to put a significant dent in the market and push other people out because of efficiency, right? If you're not paying for the electricity, you win.
Right.
So, there's some huge concerns here, and he's just voicing those concerns. I don't think he's advocating that we need to do something about it. He's just saying, hey, look, there's a weakness here in mining. And it's a core problem. So what are you going to do about it? Should we move away from proof of work? Should you move away from a machine? I think that's. He's sensibly asking that question. I think people are getting very defensive. I wonder why.
Yeah, it's very interesting the reaction to this, and so I think I agree with you on a number of points there. So basically, again, I don't think he's believes that. I don't think he's advocating, like you said, for this, but he's definitely bringing the attention to light, and I think that's a good idea because, it seems that people maybe have forgotten that the mining is kind of centralizing right now in China, and though it is centralizing in China, I still believe that it's going to hit a wall pretty soon because even Andreas Antonopoulos actually said this. He said a tweet about this. He basically said that we're going to hit Moore's law pretty soon with these ASIC chips. And once that happens, okay, you can only increase so much every year. And when that happens, guess what? Everybody is increasing about the same per year. So when that happens, then anybody now can go buy to the same chip that they're using in the big huge mining farms. So that's kind of interesting because we're going from this huge 100 turnover time from CPU and GPU to ASIC just hundreds and hundreds of times fold, for years. And then all of a sudden now we're actually going to finally be kind of stopped by this Moore's law. So I think what you're saying, it could be true that eventually, you could just keep on buying and buying and buying and maybe win a lot of hashing power. But again, there's a couple things. One, again, we got Moore's law coming up, and then two, you got the network itself resisting. So we saw what happened when when Ghash went too far, took too much when their pool took more than 50%. Right. The network did react. freaked out. We reacted and accordingly.
Yeah.
Now, I think that, let's say, for example, some crazy catastrophic thing happens in China where, let's say, they shut down the mining, or they take over the mining, and it's publicly known that now the government is literally running every single data center in every single Bitcoin data center in China. I think even then, at that point, again, the network would react. It would do something. It would either and I think it would do something to the point to where it would make Bitcoin succeed in the long term. Now, what you're talking about of moving fabs, fabrication labs and stuff like that across, it's definitely difficult. And that kind of brings up a greater problem in economics in general, which is, do we still want China to make everything we have? Right? Because they don't just make the mining stuff, right? They literally make everything. And so that's been causing problems and things like that.
Take a look at it from this perspective, like Spondoolies as an example, right? They've shifted they went from developing their own chip to building a miner to getting funding and then shifting their focus to providing the service of basically they're not into mining, they're providing the service end of it, right? They don't think of themselves as a mining company or a mining producer, but they're at the cutting edge. Their only competition when it comes to the efficiencies that they're going to be, until they butt up against Moore's law, even beyond that, because of the way they can build a machine. These guys are the best. Bitfury is in the same realm as them. The Chinese are behind when it comes to the chips that they're developing and the machines that they're building. They're an order of efficiency slower than, or order of efficiency less than what Spondoolies is able to do. So, I mean, the interesting thing I see is they're sitting in the same room, all of these people. It's not, it's not like, okay, it's, we're going to hide. The problem with Spondoolies is they just don't have the economies of scale. They can come up with the greatest machine, the best chip, but they can't fabricate millions of them or hundreds of thousands of them. They build such a great machine in Israel, but it's nothing like an Antminer. So if you can pump out more Antminers than you can pump out Spondoolie machines, I mean, there's just no competition, even if it's the best machine, the most efficient. So they've worked very, very closely with a number of Chinese companies in order to get that production up, and that's all. So what you're seeing behind the scenes is not what you think of as, decentralized. More and more of these companies are really working very, very closely together and sharing technology and developing miners that, that all of them are building, as opposed to, something like Spondoolies versus, like Bitfury versus, it's becoming less so. So right now you probably have two camps. You have Bitfury and you have, Spondoolies with Antminer and others involved, right? What does that tell you? I mean, that's narrowing the field down. That's not decentralized. That's even more centralization, even within the companies that are supposedly competing with each other. I don't think they're competing. Not anymore. It's not collusion. They're
basically, you're right. It's not collusion, but for the greatest efficiency. It's for the greater good almost.
Yeah. And there are other players in this. There are people sourcing. I mean, there's separate people out basically sourcing the cheapest power possible. So, in Eastern Europe, like I was saying, they have cheap power with nuclear. And in China, it's discontinued coal-fired plants that they fire up just for the purpose of mining in some cases, like illegally. Sure. Some of the cheap stuff that's in outer Mongolia is runoff, and it's full knowledge of the government. So this is the thing. Once you start consolidating things in this way, Spondoolies doesn't have the ability to say break off and do their own thing because they're so intermarried with what's going on in China. And it'll be the same in Eastern Europe with Bitfury. They're able to do certain things, but there's an ability for a company to come in and buy them out. There's the ability for a government to come in and and demand certain demands everything. It's just like an exchange. I mean, like how exchanges are sort of, made to say, okay, we need to see your face, we need to see your ID if you want to exchange Bitcoin for fiat. You're going to have the same sort of thing that's going to be going on with the network, I believe. Like if you're working that closely with government and business,
right?
Who says they can't put something in the machine?
Very true.
Right?
A chip in the miner, right? Or an extra,
right.
Government like Clipper chip, back in the 90s, like they were trying, they tried to get passed through. Okay, yeah. So that's interesting. It's true. So again, this problem, I'm super glad that that James brought this up and got this talking, because they got everybody talking, even in the core chat room, in the core Slack, and probably in the classic Slack. All of these places got people talking, and basically, like for me, it seems like the outcome is way beyond Bitcoin. Like the solution is just way beyond even Bitcoin. The solution is literally to have more fabs across the planet, and basically, I think that's going to come with more technology, because it might seem like super complicated to create a fab today, right? Because it really is, right? It's millions and millions of dollars, and just to keep it open, just to keep the thing running, like not even building anything, right? But costs for that, I think, are going to increasingly come down with the advent of newer technologies like 3D printing, and artificial intelligence. So when you combine these types of things, okay, now you can start getting help with your research. You can from AI and 3D printing, you can now create your fabs in third amount of time. So I think that this idea of all of this fabrication being centralized in China is only temporary. It can only last so long because the market won't let everything just ever end up in China forever, because everybody wants a piece of the pie. Everybody wants some kind of profit. So
I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to that. Like, I mean, economies of scale only works if you're building something that's cheap, something that is how do you put it? I mean, there's always a progression towards cheaper, less service, less quality sort of thing. So the cheaper you can build it and the more disposable it is, the better it is for the company. And that's typically what you're going to see with, the reason why Spondoolies can't compete is they're building the most perfect machine. It was beautiful. It might have been really loud, but it was a super machine. But you can't build things that way. You have to build them like Antminer does, right? So that you can stack them as many as you can, cram them in a dirty, ugly space, and cool the crap out of it with chicken wire and water running down the outside of the building.
This is also this is also interesting, bringing back to the technology point, because like you said, right now they are kind of running with chicken coop wire and fans, but I don't know if you've seen this article that was just recently came out. Basically, this team invented a brand new way of cooling computers in the data center. I don't know if you got to see this, but it's literally like okay, I forget the name of it, but they're literally, I believe, submersing the computers in their own custom, like oil.
GRC. GRC cooling. I mean, actually, that was done in Hong Kong by Ghash was doing that, right? I mean, they had their own. That's years ago.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is new. This was literally within a couple months ago. So it's even beyond what that was, and I forget the name of it. But what they was it was on a data center scale of cooling. They were really trying to what they were doing, and we're talking about. They were throwing around numbers like 100,000 times plus more efficient in cooling. So if you think about that kind of stuff, I mean, no.
Yeah, but the thing is if you're talking about all these advances in technology, when it becomes cheap enough to build a few miners in your garage, right? You have the tools, and all you have to do is drop in a chip. That beats efficiencies of scale, because people will do it just for the hell of doing it, right? I mean, but the thing is is it gonna continue this way? Are we gonna continue using? I mean, is there going to be a solution to? Well, is there going to be a solution to using all this energy to produce coins? Like, is there a proof of something that's going to work besides proof of work, right? So
right now, of course, there's other proposed solutions like proof of stake and such, but I still am in the camp that argue that proof of work is still going to be the most efficient and the most secure. Now, again, people they just can't get their mind around all of this because these huge mining farms and these 100 yard long facilities, and they just they're up in arms. They're like, oh my god, this is crazy. What if if Bitcoin takes over the world? Well, then you can kiss greenhouse gases goodbye. Everything is just going to be polluted and terrible and things like that. But they just don't understand the inefficiencies that go along with the current financial system. They don't understand that an entire JP Morgan building sitting on Wall Street right now is consuming more electricity by itself than half the mining network. I mean, it's crazy numbers like that. And we didn't get into
those efficiencies can be handled by using. Just one good example would be putting these mining farms next to pig farms, and just using the gas from, the effluent waste that comes off a farm. You can power pretty much any number of machines with that kind of system. And the greenhouse gases that you're burning are already going to be going into the atmosphere anyway, because it's pig shit, right? Exactly. And there's a huge issue with that. Problems with, effluent that comes off farms and things like that could be converted.
So I think that
biodigesters.
Exactly. I think that is a perfect way to offset these environmental problems with that type of solution. Now also things you can of course you can do things like put stuff in the ground to make it cooler, move most of the mining up to Antarctica. I mean, there's just a million ways that we can make Bitcoin more efficient. But there are no ways that we can make the current financial system more efficient. It is broken.
No, correct.
It is completely broken, and it is crumbling, and it is falling in on the weight of its own, corruption. Yeah. So even if Bitcoin, for the next 5 years, is centralized in China, I'm still technically really okay with that, because Bitcoin, remember, it kind of only is made for really one thing, that store of value, that transfer of value, and by itself is only going to last for so long. People are going to build layers above that. People are going to build layers above that protocol and create more applications and things that's going to make people want to use Bitcoin. So
even if I think I don't know if it's discussed later in the Angelo talk, but if say someone did get that much control, got and took it over by a government, there are alternatives to Bitcoin. I mean, they exist.
Exactly. We got a ton of them. I mean, we got a ton of them. We got Litecoin, we got Dash, we got a bunch of them. And then we got crazy projects like Ethereum, which is basically a world computer, we'll get into later. And there's just so many other things, there's a lot of confusion around that too that I want to get to, but it's just crazy. So so I think that basically, I think it's definitely, again, I guess we'll recap this topic and basically say that we're glad that he brought up these issues. I'm not quite as concerned, I think, as James is, but I definitely think that there is something there to be concerned about. And over the next 3 to 5 years, this is something that we're going to continue to talk about because, again, it's not just Bitcoin that's centralized in China. It's all fabrication of all chips, and so there's all sorts of inefficiencies there. So hopefully in the future we can correct that and again, with technology, create better, more efficient fabrication. Fabrication mines and stuff like that. So let's see. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's see. So this goes right into it. Why Bitcoin's block size debate is a proxy war. So this should be a fun one. Let me paste that into the chat. Oh, that's the same link. Good job, Jeff. Did not copy.
That's all right. We'll forgive you.
There we go. All right. So the block size debate is a proxy war. So what this article is basically saying is that it's not really a block size debate per se. It's actually a debate upon whether we want Bitcoin to be a payment network or a settlement network. And that's what this article is saying. So so let me ask you, Darren, has this been a proxy war? Is this really not really a block size debate?
I think so.
Is it more of a debate of a Bitcoin turning into a payment network or a settlement network? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's clearly the case. I think there's people that have fundamental sort of ideas about what Bitcoin should be, and having a schism here is really telling. what happens if we go one direction or the other. And you can see how what's really interesting is the miners all got together and put out their own position on this, right? So, it's really a fundamental issue that needs to be resolved now. And the idea that people are fighting over this seems ridiculous to me. I think it's a waste of time and effort, really. They should be probably moving to what the future should be for the coin. And for me, I'm not sure. You have to take the expert's word on it, right? So if Garza and who was the other guy there?
Well, yeah, you got Garzak, right? You got Andreessen, you got or not Andreessen, but Gavin. You got Gavin, Garzak. Right. They're on the classic team, and then you got Blockstream. So Peter Todd.
I'm more leaning towards Blockstream guys, just because I'm a Freecoin fanatic. So a couple of those guys in that are working on the Blockstream stuff. So side chains and that sort of thing. It benefits me because I've got a huge amount of Freecoin, right? So if a side chain gets added on, that's a good thing for me. I think that's a reasonable argument to make. And I think there's plenty of white papers out there to read. There's information that you can read about the benefits of increasing the block size and going down that route. Now, why people are arguing it out in the public, I don't understand. Like, it has to be a political proxy war. It's going for hearts and minds. It's not going for what people, the engineers, the developers should be discussing this behind closed doors. They should come up with an agreed plan and go for it, instead of trying to, sway the street is what they're trying to do. I find it unnerving.
It seems more, like the core team hasn't been trying to sway, right? They've been actually heads down at work, and then Classic, came along with their marketing team and just like stole a bunch of market share. So it kind of forced them to actually start reaching out more and things like that. When really it's a shame, I think.
But why is that the case? Why is one group got their head down working and then another group not happy about that? That speaks to internal politics more than it does about the merits of either side. To me, sounds like they don't play well together or they don't get along. It seems kind of ridiculous with the brain power of both sides that they can't come to.
They definitely have. I think again, this comes back to the proxy war. I think they have different visions of what they want Bitcoin to be. I think Peter Todd certainly has a different vision than what, for example, Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO, wants, right? I think that they have remarkably different visions, and it's going to be interesting to see what we want, because Brian Armstrong clearly wants a payment network, right? That's what his company wants to do. That's what he wants. And then, Peter Todd clearly does not want Bitcoin to become this huge global payment network for just instant transactions anywhere, And really, so here's my kind of views on it. Basically, I definitely think that it is a proxy war. I definitely agree. I think this is definitely a proxy war. Basically, what we want Bitcoin to become. And here's my views. Basically, I'm with you a little bit on the Blockstream. I've kind of always kind of stuck by Blockstream because they just keep producing code. They just keep fixing bugs. They just keep coming up with amazing,
they're smart
things,
people.
Technologies like sidechains, SegWitness, just genius people. And again, only people throw around these terms like captured all the time. Like Blockstream's entire team is captured, by VC funding and stuff. And there's only 9 people on the core team that actually get paid by Blockstream. And I think there should be more, because look, these people are they could be working anywhere. They could go and work anywhere. These genius people, but they choose to work on Bitcoin, on this world-changing project, because they believe in it. They believe in the implications that this can do. So,
for example, Mark Freibach, he gave up a job at NASA to work on, compressing the Blockstream. He worked on that alone. Getting funding from people who were just giving money, and then he joined these guys. And
then on the lower end, a little bit, maybe on the journalist side, like you have people like Jason Biggs, who just left TechCrunch recently for a Bitcoin project. And he was been there for years and years and years and years. But again, he left because he strongly believes that the project that he's working on is going to change the world.
Yeah.
So most Bitcoin projects will change the world, just like Bitcoin itself. So here's my views. Basically, I think that right now I think that I would definitely not mind Bitcoin becoming more of a settlement network. Becoming more of the ability to transfer value anywhere in the world, anytime, instantly. Now, within 10 minutes. Now, all this talk about Bitcoin, trying to compete with PayPal, Visa, and trying to be this instant micro transaction channel. So everybody in the third world can, maybe support a newspaper in the first world. Like, with microtransactions, I don't see Bitcoin fulfilling that role. I see other coins.
It doesn't have to. That's the thing. You can come up with side chains to do that anyway. So it's
exactly. You could extend Bitcoin, right? That's one way, but that's years down the road. Yeah. And even if you don't count that, there's other coins.
Closer than we think.
Sure. But even if you exclude that, there's still other coins that could be better fit, like Litecoin. That's
definitely
instant transactions. And so there's all of these other solutions. See, Bitcoin, I think from the beginning, from Satoshi's vision in the beginning, I think Satoshi had this vision of this network of value that anybody can participate in. And he didn't get hung up on the details like, oh, should I do microtransactions or should we allow for multi-billion-dollar transactions? He basically kind of left that kind of inherent to the network with things like not providing a Turing language, right? That was on purpose. So for the security of the network. Because
I think that's why you have so many problems today and because there are just so many viewpoints of where it can go, right? It's open-ended.
It is, and we can at this point in history kind of tailor it to be either a payment network or a settlement network. And so I guess I'm still on the side of the core team, trying to rationally scale this thing slowly but surely. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get some spam attacks along the way. Might piss a few people off. We got years to go before this thing is going to go mainstream. I mean, this is not in any way, shape, or form mainstream yet. We have time to.
I mean, one of the things I wonder about is Bitcoin a currency? Is that what it should be as well? Should it be something that you can transact with?
Well, again, see, you have to define
as opposed to being, like a lot of people look at Bitcoin as something of value. I disagree with that sort of fundamentally. I think a currency should be used for spending, not for holding as value. It should be the way we transact, the way economics happens, as opposed to being, like a piece of land or a piece of something that you own that has, some sort of value inherent in it. It should have no value at all, in my opinion.
Well, see, that's
it should just be allowed to transfer. It should just move really quickly and allow us to transfer more efficiently.
That'd be nice in a perfect world, right? In a perfect world, but here's what we have. We have.
But isn't that where we're going? Aren't we going to a perfect world soon with all this technology?
Right, years from now, perhaps. But I tell you right now, Bitcoin, I think again is going to be much more suited to when you say, is Bitcoin should be a currency. Here's the thing: you have to kind of define what currency is, and currency itself is kind of an old understanding concept. See, we're going to, I think, move past currency and more into the value associated with every individual human being. And this is kind of what Bitcoin is. When you say that Bitcoin itself has no value, all the value of Bitcoin lies in its network itself, its proof of work network, because that is what provides the security. That is what makes Bitcoin the most secure chain, the most secure coin on the planet. It has the longest chain of truth, and it has the most hashing power behind it, pushing that. So that actually is where the value. So when people say Bitcoin doesn't have an inherent value or Bitcoin doesn't have value, what the value is actually in the network. Now the tokens, they gain value simply because of a side effect of the fact that they're the only way you can traverse this network of value. So when you say, so Bitcoin, when you say should we spend Bitcoin as a currency, look, I think that it's going to evolve past that. I think we're going to be able to attach contracts, land rights, we're going to everything from your car to literally selling a huge multi-million-dollar company with all of its employees and payroll and supply chains all in like one zip file.
Yeah, definitely. And that gets to the core of what a currency should be. It should just be it should be the pathway, right? It's not really about, it's great that it has value because it's technically advanced and it has all of these trust strengths to it. But when you get down to the core of it, when I'm face to face with you and I want something that you have and I have nothing to exchange it, nothing, like there's absolutely nothing I have that you will accept for you to give me that service or product, then, you know, like, I mean, you're not going to accept my American dollar, my Canadian dollar, or my this or my that. I think that, you know, Bitcoin is on that path, is on that trajectory that, like you're saying, eventually it's going to be everything. It's not just a dollar, right? It's a contract. It's even thought, right? It's even creative work. It's art. It's you know, it doesn't even have to be contracts and business. It can be music. It could be books. It could be ideas.
Well, again, you know, this goes back to, again, what Andreas, you know, always says, is that your money is a form of language, right? It's a form of communication. So when you put your money somewhere, you know, you're actually voicing your opinion, and of course, only being able to voice our opinion in the same currency for the past 100+ years has had some side effects. And this is what you know, this is what I describe our time in right now is really like this crypto revolution, this finance revolution, because right now we're in this state of revolution where the entire world is renaissance. I'm sorry, renaissance, not revolution, but it could be revolution too. But I really say that it's finance renaissance, because for 200 years nobody was working on banking except for bankers. Right?
Yes.
For hundreds of years, nobody was working on banking except for bankers, and now we have the whole world thinking about and working on banking.
If you take your language analogy a little bit further, you can even think of as Bitcoin as a universal translator as well. You know, like if you have multiple different coins, you know, and there are side chains and things happening that way, you know, it's sort of kind of like how Ripple works, but it's Bitcoin Ripple. You know,
so I think that you know, so I think Bitcoin will work as both, either a payment network or a settlement network. You know, either way, this thing is going to continue to gain value, going to continue to just swipe through the world because of its utility, just like the internet did. You just cannot match the speed of email, and you will not be able to match the speed and feature set of a Bitcoin transaction. So in general, so again, you know, we have things like Litecoin that can do things, you know, faster, but you will not be able to match the security. So, and you know, and it's so funny to me that people are always talking about, oh man, 10 whole minutes, that's ridiculous. There's coins that do it in 30 seconds. Look, dude, do you realize the world that you live in right now? Do you know how long it takes right now to go transfer to get to, let's say you lose your
how many minutes do you just wait in line?
Yeah, seriously, just waiting in line. But seriously, to go to a bank and, for example, to, let's say, get a new car. What is it for your car? What do you call it? Not
a new.
But the papers for your car. The ownership
registration.
Yeah,
registration.
No, the ownership. The ownership.
Oh yeah,
papers.
the ownership. Yeah.
I forget what it's called. Anyway, the owner.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We call it a registration in Canada. Your registration papers. Yeah. Okay.
So title. Yeah, these papers, the title. There you go, title. Yeah, thank you. Man, that was strange. Okay, I couldn't think of that. So the title. Let's say you want to go just get a new title from the bank. First of all, you'll be standing in line forever. Second of all, you'll be standing in line longer, filling out information, and then you'll be waiting weeks to receive it in the mail. So you know, people are just talking about like, and then now try to send $500 to Germany in less than a week. Right? Yeah. You try to do that. It's not going to happen. So all of this 10-minute stuff, you know, that people are worried about, it's just going to it's going to be like people worried about the internet in the 90s.
I mean, supporting video. Yeah, I mean, that's a bogus argument anyway. I mean, you take a look at what people do right now in terms of playing currency exchange markets with Bitcoin, right? I mean, they've been doing it for years. You know, I mean, 10 minutes. What does that? That doesn't mean anything when you're talking about fractions of milliseconds basically on an exchange using bots trading. I mean, that's going on. That's been going on almost day one, right? With over the counter, and then, you know, as more exchanges got online, people are doing this right now. They've been doing, and they're doing it within different coins with Bitcoin. They don't have any. They made it themselves. Right? I mean, they're connecting all these dots, and people are complaining about something like this. See, this is why I think it's a kind of a, like you say, this proxy war to me is really dumb, because these are the wrong questions to be asking now. You know, I understand that you want to have a certain direction, but if in the future Bitcoin's going to be able to do all these wonderful things, what does it matter exactly right now? I mean, you can work out, I mean, you can come out with a compromise, I'm sure, if the people sat down at the table and discussed it instead of ranting and raving online.
Well, basically what we have solutions. Basically, we have a roadmap from Core. We have classic and unlimited forks that are ready in the waiting in case the world decides that we want to go that way. So we have everything ready to go. Like literally, the market is 100% primed to just explode in 5 years, to be ready to go for the planet in like a few years, in my opinion. So so basically everybody who's talking in the block size debate, who participates in it and stuff like that, just calm down a second. Exactly. Take a breath, right? Grab yourself a Coca-Cola, okay? Grab yourself a Coke and just sit down and just realize that if it's a payment network or a settlement network, Bitcoin is still going to change the world. It's still going to revamp our current financial system. It's still going to allow for a million other amazing coins like Ethereum and other things to flourish and to come into being and to be accepted. So that's what the kind of message I want to get out there. just like calm down a little bit. But yeah, because I participate in the I participate a lot of conversation in the CoinDesk forums, and we got a lot of people in there like Mad Technician and stuff like that who just scream the sky is falling. Constantly about how look, this Segwit should have been here a year ago. It's too late. All these things. Like, look, dude, I don't know about you, but I can still send a transaction just fine right now. And if you don't think you can, send me all your Bitcoin. And if you don't think this is going to,
you don't want
send me your Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
Send to me. Because basically what they say is like the Mad Technician, he says all the time. He's like basically, Bitcoin is losing market share. People are going to go to a coin with faster block times. And I say, really?
I hope it happens. No, right? I hope it happens. I hope there's some diversity. Because then
of course.
Why not?
Well, here's what I say. I'm like, you know what? Enjoy the security on your altcoin because it's going to get hacked sooner or later. While Bitcoin will be continuing to go strong. Because again, this proof of work that people call, a waste of CPU power is what's securing the network and what's making it the most trustful solution in the world. The greatest trustless. Zero counterparty risk here, people. People still can't get that through their head. With zero counterparty risk does. Like, it's amazing. I guess we have some, if you count the mining centralization that we have right now. That's
there's issues, but it's nothing. Yeah, it's not like a crypto with that's undermined, or it's not merge mined or something like that has the protection of the Bitcoin network. There's nothing out there right now that's comparable. I can't. You can't argue it.
So very cool. So very cool to discuss that. So So the sky, in my opinion, again, is not falling. I support the core team right now. I don't support them forever. I support them right now. Glad to see that there's Classic and Unlimited and other forks out there, keeping the core team honest and keeping them going. And that's great. The more competition, the merrier. And I think the sky's not falling. I think that if we roll out larger blocks all the way until next summer, I think we're still good. These freaking attacks that are being launched on Bitcoin to make the network be artificially congested is not helping anybody. It's not helping the network. It's not helping people, enjoy the network. I don't think it's helping very much at all. So, you're not going to be able to scare people into choosing Classic like you've been trying to do, because again, you could look at the nodes. The core Classic nodes is still far less than half of core nodes, so things like that. So that's a few things I want to say. So we'll just segue it. We'll just move into the next topic here. So if you guys are, this is the most terrible segue ever, but if you guys are if you guys are enjoying the show, please tweet out. Click on the left-hand side there. Click the Facebook button or click the tweet button. Tweet out that we're talking Bitcoin here. We're about to move on to the next topic here with Darren and myself. Just for real. Someone join us, dude. Someone needs to come in. We're more than, usually there's a couple people usually that come in here that are joining right now. Maybe not. Okay, I just wanted to take a quick peek, but no. So yeah, just a busy night for everybody. I couldn't get any of my normal guests to come on, and nobody seems to be joining in. So, but we're still here because the beautiful thing is the show gets archived and uploaded, and you can watch it forever on. So let's see here. So the next what we're going to be talking about next is Ethereum, and we're talking about the article called Ethereum Blockchain Project Launches First Production Release. So let's paste that in.
I'll warn you now, I know very little or nothing about Ethereum other than it's skyrocketed in value recently.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. And it kind of reminds me a lot of Bitcoin, in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is what you're getting is you're getting awareness, which leads to speculation, and the speculation comes before actual value, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're getting just huge amounts of speculation, all of this value uh, that the market cap is enjoying right now, that people are putting into Ethereum. This is all from speculation. This is not from actual use, people. This is not from like Ethereum launching an amazing application like Augur in full version for everybody ready to go or something like that. This is literally all being driven by speculation. So just keep that in mind when you see Ether go from $1 to $15. Within a couple of weeks or a few weeks, that is not going to be from actual real world usage. This is from speculation. So that's the first thing. You got to keep in mind that there's a lot of hype around Ethereum right now, but it's very early days for Ethereum. Despite them launching a few releases already, it's very early days. It can still go very wrong, but I'm definitely rooting for them and hoping for them. They have a very strong community. Ethereum has a great community around it. It really does. They actually just, with their latest release, they actually were able to push a hard fork, gain consensus on a hard fork pretty easily. But of course, that is because Ethereum is more centralized per se. The actual, management of Ethereum is far more centralized than Bitcoin. So that's part of the reason, of course. But it is also part of the reason that they have a great community. So that's really cool. Basically, let's see what somebody said. Oh yeah. So basically they just released their newest release. Let's see, what was the name of this release? Homestead. Yeah. So this is the newest release called Homestead. And I gotta, on a side note, give them props to their website designer. I don't know who the hell the website designer is, but I'm a programmer myself, a web designer programmer myself for my day job. And that is some good shit, people. That is some awesome, amazing designs. Thing is responsive. It's beautiful. We got transitions from scrolling transitions and everything. It's really, really nice. In my opinion, I guess probably has a little bit too much crap on the front of the page, but nevertheless, despite that, it's still fast. Like somebody in the chat room just mentioned, thing is fast. Like, let me just click it real quick. I just want to see, like, just to make sure, because I've seen many sites, with this big. Yeah, this thing just loads instantly. Like, it's kind of crazy, the amount of images and content is on that site and how fast it loads. But so props to the designer, because their previous release and this release, both their website has been just insanely amazing. So very cool for that. But with this release, they launched a couple new things. They launched a couple new technologies. I believe they launched a new wallet and a new language for creating smart contracts. But the name of the wallet is Mist, and it seems pretty cool. Like, again, I'm in your camp where I don't really know a whole bunch about Ethereum, but I know a few things. I know basically what it was designed to do. And so what it was designed to do was, Bitcoin is designed to be this store of value and this transfer value system, this value transfer system. But Ethereum was designed to be this smart contract system, and not just a smart contract system, but a smart contract distributed system. So everybody's contracts are running decentralized, and so you can't actually ever shut down a contract. You can't actually ever shut one down because of the way that it's working. And of course, it's really cool that it has a Turing complete scripting language, which everybody likes to rave about. But again, I think that Bitcoin doesn't have that for security reasons. There's a reason why, because the amount of technologies that Bitcoin brought together under one roof to work correctly at scale is already insane. And to add a Turing complete language into it, I think Satoshi was like, nope, that's one step too far. Because really, in my opinion, I think it really would have undermined the security early days.
So why is that implemented in Ethereum? What's its purpose?
The Turing complete. Yeah. So the Turing complete scripting language is there so you can do basically more detailed, more complex, decentralized apps. Basically, you can create decentralized, autonomous corporations with Ethereum.
Okay, cool. I see.
So you can do some crazy stuff. And again, it's all going back to their contracts. It's all going back to contracts, which gets run by their coin Ether. So it is pretty fascinating, and if it does work, it's going to be, I think, very useful for people around the world. So I am a big fan of only investing in coins that I believe will actually be useful 5 years from now. And I definitely think that Ethereum will be one of these coins that will actually be useful if it's still around in 5 years. There's a few things that scare me about it. Like, for example, the Ether, it doesn't actually require the programming language to use Ether. Like, they could just, for example, recently a bank was using Ethereum to do a couple of different smart contracts, but guess what? They didn't use Ether, right? They didn't use their token. They just used the language. So that kind of makes me skeptical about what's going to happen with Ether in the future. And as well as, it's early days, so we've had some regulation come for Bitcoin, but we're years away from having regulation come for Ethereum. So, like, seriously, it could be, there's a lot of hurdles to go through. So it's very, very early days. I'm not sure that they'll survive the regulation.
What about the team for Ethereum? Are we just talking one person here, or what?
Now that's interesting too. That's another thing that scares me a little. That's nothing a little bit scares me as well, because right now we're literally talking about a team of. It's really one. There's a few, but it's Vladik. He's the main guy, developing it. There was literally like 12 people in the beginning that all claimed to be founders and co-founders, of it, and they've all since gone, moved on to the project, disappeared, left it. Things like that, leaving the youngest one in charge of the entire project.
Is there any sense of why that's happening?
So, as far as I can't really speak for everybody and what their sense is. I can guess and speculate, and basically what I speculate is that the use of Ether is not going to. The way it's implemented is not going to be enough to power the network itself into the future. I think that people are going to try to bypass Ether in various ways and just fork Ethereum for different purposes and things like that.
Right.
I don't see Ether. Yeah, again, I don't see them with just this one guy, spearheading the whole thing, and with their centralized management. I don't see them surviving regulation. With that, the reason why Bitcoin can survive, regulation, because again, there's so many people involved in deciding its future, being able to change the code and things like that. So again, this thing that Ethereum, their code is easily changed, right? They were able to fork really easily, and that's great. But again, the problem is that's also a problem. Bitcoin being so difficult to change is actually a feature, right? It's built in. It's a feature. It's not a bug.
Is the difficulty of changing Bitcoin more about the amount of use it has compared to its the ability to change the code, or is it, do you really need?
Well, that's definitely a factor.
No,
that's definitely a factor, because just like TCP/IP, by version 4 we were unable to change it, right? It was so embedded into hardware devices, software devices, we were unable to change. It took 20 years to get to IPv6, and we're still not fully rolled out on that, or 10 years, I mean. And so I think that we're going to reach a point to where it will just be so widespread and ubiquitous that it will be difficult to change. But that's what I'm saying. We're not there yet. We have a couple years before we hit that threshold. So we still have a couple years to go. But eventually we will hit that, and that's why we've got to put in as much as code in there as possible. And that's why I really don't like rushing things like with the classic team and with the XT team, the way that they wanted to rush, and the other code that they put in there besides the block size increase, things like that. Very skeptical about that kind of stuff. So they just didn't seem quite as transparent as the core.
There's a question that Dude is asking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on where Ethereum will be at in 6 months.
Oh yeah, sure. So I mean, this thing has got legs for days, man. This thing's got legs for years, possibly. It could be years before Ethereum actually ever gets shut down, or it comes to the point to where people leave the project entirely. So personally, I guess where I see Ethereum in 6 months, I would say that it's still going to be strong. I think there's still going to be a lot of people working with it, and I think that I think it's the Ether coin itself will continue to have value, but the way it's designed, it's not designed to rise like Bitcoin. It's not designed to eventually be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per Ether, right? That would destroy the network. That'd make the network itself unusable. So you have to take that with a grain of salt, because it's going to rise, but it's only going to rise so much, and that's only if people are on board with using this Ether token to do their tasks on the network.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I look at any coin. If you're going to judge on where it's going to be in the future, you have to really take a look at the person developing it, right? I mean, any coin, even if it has zero value now, depending on what comes in the future, it could be valuable in the future. And if you're talking Ethereum, you've probably got one of the smartest people working on a coin right now in the world with him. I've seen him talk. You know, he's slightly, you know, he's not your. I mean, he's on a spectrum somewhere, but he's brilliant.
Sure. And he's young and he's brilliant. Of course, he's definitely brilliant. But at the end of the day, more brilliant people are working on Bitcoin than Ethereum, right? At the end of the day, there are more people working on Bitcoin.
True, but he's a shit. Yeah, even when he's speaking, the people who are smart in Bitcoin listen to him and what he's saying, because he's on an order of magnitude. He's a little bit higher than most people, and the people who are like the top in Bitcoin listen to him, and vice versa. There's definitely a respect there for Ethereum. So in terms of value, I think if you want to put money in the man, it's not a bad bet.
For the short term. That's
the way I would look at it.
I would believe it's not a bad bet for the short term. In the long term, just lost him. Hopefully he can come right back.
I'll refresh.
Okay, that's what happened. Refresh. But yeah, so basically, I think that he's definitely a brilliant person, and he's definitely up there. And we're going to see. I think that the community definitely looks up to him and respects him. And even when he speaks, every word is chosen very carefully, and he's I think very unlike myself. As you can tell, he's very clear with his words, and he has a very clear understanding of what he wants to get across. So I definitely like Vladik, like his work, and I hope that Ethereum succeeds. I'm just not bullish on it long term. Really am not. There's just too many issues I see. So with that being said, let's see. Can move on to the final topic, which really is about Augur. I just kind of wanted to get people's, maybe start a conversation about Augur, see if anybody wanted to speak about that. But let's see if you can come back in. Were you able to refresh? The joys of running a live show. It's fun. Is he coming back? Darren, are you coming back? Well, we'll see. If Darren, we hope Darren comes back. Definitely liked the conversation so far. Very cool. So let's see. So the final topic is what was Augur. Hopefully we can get Darren back in here to speak about that. But basically, Augur is going to be pretty crazy. So Augur is speaking of Ethereum. Augur is a project that runs off of Ethereum, the Ethereum blockchain, and it is basically a market prediction platform. And really what that really means is it's a betting machine, a global betting machine that nobody can shut down. And so I think that the implications of this are just profound, possibly as big as, as Bitcoin itself. It's just going to be huge, because first Bitcoin opens up finance, but then Augur opens up gambling. And when you open up finance, of course, the world changes. But when you open up gambling, the world changes even further, because at that point, you can start to create open prediction markets. Again, this is what they're trying to do. Basically, create a gambling site that turns into a prediction market. Because if this excels at scale, you can do some pretty scary and amazing things at the same time. So we're going to see how Augur reacts. But basically, they just entered beta. The news is that they just entered beta. It was first announced in 2015. They actually had a pretty successful crowdfunding sale, but now it's actually open to initial users, and I guess it's boasting what it's called an improved front end design. Looks pretty much the same to me. It's not too different, but it is getting more efficient, of course. They have their own token, which is I believe it's called REP, distribution of reputation. So it's a cryptographic token. It's going to be very interesting to see what Augur is going to do, because you can the possibilities are pretty profound. If the whole entire world, right, if millions and millions of people are betting that this specific outcome happens, it's probably going to happen, right? If the more people that get on board with it, that accept it, and then if it happens, I mean, you can start predicting all sorts of different things. And remember, this technology, you know, maybe like in the 80s was predicted to just be held by the governments, you know, once like the 1984 book, once they take over, so they're going to get all the data. Because as we know, NSA is, of course, tracking all of our data. But I tell you what, they've got nothing on Augur. When Augur comes out, it's going to be the by far the best prediction, I think, mechanism that we'll have on this planet for predicting the future. So it's going to take years, of course, to get to that point to where we'll have that amount of data to be that accurate. But I think that the implications of that are going to be pretty profound. Let's see, we got Darren back in here. Let's see if he can join in here. Says he's connecting right now. There he is. Are you back?
Right. Back.
Cool. Cool. So yeah, I just really quickly spoke about the next topic, Augur. Do you have any familiarity? Can't speak tonight. Familiarity with Augur?
I noticed something about it. That's it. What is Augur? Oh yes, okay, yeah. I read this before you. I read this yesterday, actually. This thing. That's weird. I actually read this article, not preparing for speaking here. Didn't have to crash.
Synchronistic, man. Synchronicity.
Yeah, that's weird. So what? That's what I would say. So what? They got this thing.
So what do you think about it? I mean, because do you understand what it is? Like basically, right? It's this global prediction market that you know, if it succeeds, what?
Sorry, if it succeeds.
Oh yeah, sorry. So well, it's this global prediction market, right? So if it succeeds at scale, that means it will really be the best indicator of the future that we have on the planet. Because if like a million people bet that a certain outcome is going to happen, it probably more than likely is going to happen, right? If a million people are betting that it will versus only a couple of thousand that betting that it won't, it's probably going to happen. And when you take that to scale, when you bet on every single outcome that you can think of, right, from sports to presidential elections to markets to anything, when you take that at scale, right, that and being able to be powered by the blockchain, which means that it's open to everybody, this data, that I think is going to have very, very, very powerful implications. What do you think about that?
Is everybody having access to it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's going to be open like Bitcoin. Like it's on the Ethereum blockchain, so anybody can participate.
So how would that benefit anyone? So I put money into it, but everybody puts money into it. And they know what the outcome is going to be.
Right. So initially, if everybody can do it. So initially, well, first of all, it does cost their token to place a bet. So that's how they stop you from just taking over, right? Everybody just betting. So it does cost their token to bet, but anybody can participate. Anybody can place a bet, and anybody can place any number of bets, I believe. And just the more money wins. So again, this is real value being placed on an outcome. So again, if millions and millions of dollars, right, are riding on this one thing, this one outcome, versus a couple $1,000s are saying that it's not going to come true, it's on the same system, it's probably going to come true. And when you take that concept and scale it out to everything, so from sports to economics to finance to government to everything, what can that do? If we can literally almost gauge,
it takes away free will.
Well, it doesn't take away free will, but it definitely combines. Right? It combines.
If you know the outcome to every question, why ask the question?
Because here's the thing. Because we actually don't know for sure, right? But we have a guess. We have a probability, and that's what we're talking about here. We're close. We're getting closer to a higher probability than we ever have before. Because remember, the computer, they have networks like this and data like this and systems like this that try to predict the future already, right? There's a few different systems. I forget the name of them.
Yeah, there's some things that it will be able to predict, and then there'll be things it won't be able to predict. That's clear. You know, it's not going to be able to predict your thought process.
Right. I mean, yeah.
it can predict systems that have enough data points, but it cannot predict the flight of a group of bees. Let's say. Computers try to do that, and I mean they come to a certain level of accuracy, but at some point that breaks down when you're talking about individuals and things like that. So yeah, I mean
that's because of free will, right? That's because of free will. Because of free will, you can't get 100% probability. You can't get 100% probability because of free will.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of free will. I think it's because we don't know where thought comes from, right? I mean, when you pick something up, it comes from a conscious thought before a conscious thought. There's a lot of research that has to be done on that. It would be pretty scary if you can combine that with the idea of where does thought come from, because then you might be able to predict the what you're going to think.
Not to derail it too. Check it out. Not to derail it too bad, but if you research into consciousness a lot, because I've actually researched a lot into consciousness. If you research into this stuff a lot, you start finding the same kind of things over and over again, which is basically that we are all connected in much more deeply than we think, than we understand. And this is being proven with different data points all over the world and these types of things. Yeah. So when you're talking about consciousness and where it comes from, the answer is it comes from everybody, right? Everybody is part of this.
Yeah, collective. Yeah,
we have a collective consciousness, and so from there we're actually, and we're going to detect that stuff pretty soon. We just literally just detected gravity waves. We're going to get into the conscious stuff pretty soon.
Yeah, but those things. I think what's more interesting is why does put it this way, there's some very basic understanding of thought. We have no clue. You can't tell why an insect turns left or right. You can no more tell why or where the thought comes from to pick something up or what you're going to say next. And that's really something that's may never be known or not known with the abilities that we have now. Now, in terms of gravity waves and all these other things, or collective consciousness, I think there is something to that. Right? I think that there will be, but I think you have to do the basic building block first. Like, where does a thought come from? And that basic question can't be answered unless people actually do the research. And very few people are doing that.
I think there's more people than you think, actually, and I think that it's more and more people growing. More and more people. I think that the frequency of this planet is very much raising higher, and I think that it can be measured when you look at the amount of goodwill and good projects and that are being worked on around the world. When you're talking about things like clean water projects and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. I think just the interconnectedness of people, you get that hive mind mentality going, and the basic social structure for human beings is some people work, they provide value, and it allows other people to do other kinds of work. That's just the general nature of human beings. I think that I don't know what Augur. I think Augur can be a very dangerous thing, or it could be a very interesting thing. But I don't see how it benefits everybody if you know predictable outcomes. It's just like an insurance table, isn't it?
So
at that point.
So I think
I'm going to bet you're going to die at 50,
right?
Because you do this, and this.
Well, so I think that it can help keep things honest. So I think that it will take down corruption, because before you'd be able to pay somebody to be able to maybe make an outcome happen. But when the whole world is betting, when the whole world is participating in the game, it makes it more difficult to do corruption and to do corruption in all of its various forms.
Yeah. But then. If you're talking, it'd be interesting to see how that affects, how it cuts through propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, like a presidential election, right? So if the presidential election says that, everybody voted for this president, but Augur says that freaking nobody voted for it, that's part of the value that Augur can bring, I think, is transparency, because for the first time we can literally kind of ask the whole planet at one time in real time what they think about a specific outcome. That has never been able to be done before. So we have things like, forums and voting and stuff, but nobody could ever really all those were in centralized data stores. They couldn't really talk to other data stores, and of course real money wasn't really behind it. You just click a like or you click an upvote, right? But in this particular instance, there's actual money behind it. And Facebook, is actually probably researching into something like this too, because they're researching into something beyond the like button, where basically it's like the like button, but you have to put money up for it. So that kind of thing is what's really going to, I think, bring the value. We're gonna be able to put much more consistency and much more, like, basically value behind a decision of an outcome. So we'll see how that plays out. And personally, I'm pretty excited about it. So Darren is refreshing again. He I don't know why he has to keep refreshing. Maybe he's got to try a new browser, but we'll see what happens. That was the last topic of the show. If you guys like the show, please tweet out, please Facebook, please share it, let people know. Please give me some feedback. You can always find me at Twitter, on Twitter at @the1vortex. I definitely want to hear in your comments what you guys think about these topics. For sure, Augur. Just let me know, like, am I crazy that I think this thing is going to change the world, possibly more than Bitcoin even, or what? What do you guys think? So check us out in the comments. But we thank Darren. Definitely thank Darren. He on Blab, he is at BICKNELLSKI. So Bicknelski is where you can find him. It looks like his name is Darren M. Bicknell. So definitely thank you for joining, Darren. I'll definitely be putting your name in the credits so people can find you. Hopefully that is your same Twitter name, because Blab is the same I am. So same username. So I'll be posting that out. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Definitely had a good time. Love talking Bitcoin. Please join us again. We're doing these shows every other week now, so it won't be next Monday, but it'll be the Monday after that. So please, if you like the show, subscribe. We'll put the show up to the next link right after this show ends. So click subscribe if you're actually going to see the show. So definitely a good time. Darren saying thanks. He had a great time too. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see you again next time. Have a good week. Bye bye.